Baby, what's wrong?
The person whom you're trying to reach is currently unavailable. Please.
It looks like you're already gone.
Hey, what's up, man? Just getting ready. We're up on YouTube over here. Yeah. So it's a 57 mark, so I'm gonna hook up. So we'll go over there. I'm not gonna dick around too long. Epic's gonna join us. He's just gotten done taking a shower and getting the fire ants off. So he said he's gonna join us in about 20 minutes or so.
Those fire ants are no joke, man.
I know that. I know. Let me get your volume squared. Hang on a second. Let me get you squared away real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, don't get me started on ants, man.
All right, cool. I can hear you now. All right, we're square. Let me hook this network up and we'll get rolling. Neuroscience. Fucking speakers. Every time I turn off my Skype, it turns my speakers all the way up. All right, here we go. All right. Hey, YouTube, what's going on? Good to see everybody. What's up, AJ? What's up, Lolly? What's up, Mateo? What's up, Droney? What's up, everybody? I can't see everybody. I got to get this studio hooked up. Give me a second. There we go. All right, everybody, here we go. Let's get this show on the road. This shit is...
Free men are right to live unencumbered and in peace. And those times are quickly drawing to an end. And in these times, peace is certainly an illusion. And as the chains grow tighter, our ability to slip those chains increase incrementally with every passing moment. Inaction is no longer an option. It's time to raise our voices like a cacophony of thunder and lightning and tell the masters no more. And this is Nighthawk. I say, for myself, no more. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, because the freedom is slipping away.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Hey guys, Scorpio here. Join me every Saturday at 2 p.m. here on Studio A for the Scorpio Conspiracy Show, where we discuss the hidden agendas that impact our lives and uncover the secret societies and the shadowy elite who construct the reality that we are supposed to believe. So be there Saturdays, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, here on Studio A on Revolution Radio, and learn what's really going down.
Lost a little honey on the lone highway, left me for another on the lone highway. They killed Dirty Dog McGee on the lone highway.
CPR street gang, most is all fighting. Standing by, over. CPR street gang, most is all fighting. Standing by, over.
Right now, it's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, clocks run out. Time's up.
Check out the
When
big brain
it's
on
going
Brad.
cold and dark, on the road and no way out,
capsules. In 10 minutes, take 2 more. Help is on the way. What's wrong?
Never mind.
What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?
For more enjoyment and greater efficiency, consumption is being standardized.
If you feel you are not properly sedated, call 348-844 immediately.
My name's Jimmy. It's Monday. It's Revolution Radio. And Into the Microcosm is on the air.
I think you're gonna like it. I think you're gonna feel you belong. A nocturnal vacation, unnecessary sedation. You wanna feel at home, 'cause you belong. Welcome to my nightmare.
Welcome to my
Well, it's Monday. We made it through another weekend. I am hanging by a thread, ladies and gentlemen, in FEMA Region 9. I got my good friend, my good buddy, Bruce McDonald, in the green room. The epic journeyman is paddling in from some rough surf. And we're about to get into something. We're about to get into something that is some of the most heinous, if not the most heinous material that's out there right now. That's right. Neuroscience. It's Into the Microcosm.
I've been higher than stardust. I've been seen upon the sun. I used to count in millions then, but now I only count in one. Come on, join the traveler. If you got nowhere to go, hang your head and take my hand. It's the only road.
What we're here to talk about today is the fact that the brain is and will be the 21st century battlescape in many ways. End of story. You will encounter some form of neurocognitive science that has been weaponized not only in your military career, but in your personal and professional lives. It is valid, valuable, and already in operational play. The brain is the current and future battle space. What's new about this is the in-close nature of this. Increasingly, we're not seeing these things as weapons of mass destruction against gross aspects of the population. More specifically, perhaps, might be targeting individuals on a level that allows either direct attribution or covert engagement with non-attribution. If we talk about what brain science is, let me just give you a little bit of brief background on this field. It is now called neuroscience. As a titular field, as a named field, neuroscience has only been in existence for 40 years. I know that because I've been a neuroscientist for about 38 of those 40 years. Increasingly, it is becoming an international, multinational, global, and independently exercised event and endeavor, which increases the capability of the brain sciences to develop not only new theories, but ever more sophisticated tools. So
sophisticated tools for the intervention of your cognitive liberty. My name's Jimmy. I'm here with Bruce McDonald. Bruce, I'm going to stop it there. We're just barely getting into it. Neuroscience and the brain seems to be the new battle space from all the research that I've been doing here for the last month or so. I ran across a guy by the name of Dr. James Giordano. This dude is known as the mad scientist. This little chunk that we're listening to here is a 5-minute chunk out of an hour-long presentation.
How then can we use...
Hang on one second. So what I've done is I've gone through about 4 of his presentations, and I've got a few of them lined up. So what I was going to do is set up what's going on with this little 5-minute clip here. He's given it to military people. This is done at the Task Force EU Coalition. So he's speaking to military personnel, so he tends to speak fast. So there's a lot of information that goes by here in the next 5 minutes. Bruce, would you prefer to just hang back, let me run this tape, give you a basis for what we're going to be talking about before we get into some of the more heinous aspects of what they're doing?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, brother, here we go.
Elements as weapons, means of contending against others. Formal definition of a weapon, probably the one that you've heard about most recently, most contemporaneously in the literature, is the possibility to use some form of directed energy to affect physiology peripherally and also to affect the physiology and health of the brain. Case in point here, U.S. Embassy personnel in Havana and possibly in China. Clearly, one of the things we can also do is transcranial neuromodulation, the idea of going through the skull to modulate the node and network activity of the brain, to implant certain brain-machine interfaces. These are many of the DARPA programs that you may hear of now. Probably the one that is most notorious is something called the N3 program, which is the non-invasive neurosurgical neuromodulation program being run by their program manager, Dr. Al Mundy. The idea here is to put minimal-sized electrodes in a network within a brain through only minimal intervention to be able to read and write into the brain function in real time, remotely. And then, of course, you also have the things that are a little bit more traditional. If we talk about things that can be operable in the biochemical space, we ordinarily talk about drugs, bugs, toxins, and ever more, we're considering devices. I can disrupt an individual from the level of their cell to their system, and disrupt individuals on a variety of levels, from individuals all the way up to the social fabric. Target a specific individual, change or eliminate that individual with very little attribution and trace, and be able to leave prior to any attribution. Drugs can be exceedingly specific, and as I'll show you in a moment, can be very, very much used to individualize weaponology in terms of what we call precision pathology or precision effect.
This precision pathology stuff is I'm almost speechless at the ability for the military to deliver this weaponized technology, and we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it a little bit deep today, ladies and gentlemen. There's quite a bit here. There's a piece, while they're laying this out, there's a particular piece that's actually very poignant to what we're actually going through right now with this whole COVID situation. Turns out there's an operational idea about something like that, and he happened to talk about it, not in context to what we're going through right now specifically, but in this talk in 2017, he talks about it in the sense that, well, if I was a terrorist, I could do this. And then lays it out, and we're going to get into that right here, right now. My name's Jimmy. It's Into the Microcosm. Bruce McDonald from McDonald the Morning. We're going to get into it. Here we go.
And by affecting the way that brain is built and the way it functions, influence in ways that are kinetic and non-kinetic. The attitudes, beliefs, thoughts, emotions, activities. Look at the power that understanding, tools, and techniques of the brain sciences afford. We also see the use of biodata as a viable weapon. Manipulating biodata so that I can then put into your particular medical records subtle information that may change the disposition of whether you're sick or not, change how you're treated, influence the postures that go to you in terms of insurance, care, viability for military service. By altering that information, by changing those data, by purloining those data, I essentially change the you of you. And I can do that in very subtle and insidious ways. Furthermore, I can do that on a variety of different levels that can affect key individuals so that in fact your medical record changes to thereby render you incapable or at least invalid to be able to serve in a way you're serving. Or I can do that on a much larger scale, groups, populations. And if I change those data, I change the way you're being regarded and treated. And I can do that in one of two ways. I can do it in such a way that you're going to be regarded in a negative sense, or I can do that in such a way that I'm going to treat you incorrectly. If I say, for example, you have a particular allergy or you have a particular disorder, you will be treated for that, and that could then harm your health and your stability in both a short wars approach as well as a long wars approach. One of the newest developments is that nanoparticulate matter.
Let's pay particular close attention to this particular piece right here.
Can be stabilized for distribution. If you're not aware of what nanoparticulate matter is, it's that matter which exists on a scale of 1 × 10⁹ very, very small, smaller than a cell. And we can manufacture materials that have discrete properties that can be controlled by virtue of bioengineering and their physical chemistry. I can create small robotic units, controllable robotic units at the nanoscale, and that these too can be aerosolized to create a nanoswarm of biopenetrable materials that you cannot see, that can penetrate all but the most robust biochemical filters, that are able to integrate themselves through a variety of membranes, mucous membranes, and wherever, mouth, nose, ears, eyes, can be then uptaken into the vascular system to create clumping, can affect the vascular system of the brain, or can directly diffuse into the brain space, and these can be weaponized. And they can be done in such a level that their presence is almost impossible to detect, and as such, the attribution becomes exceedingly difficult to demonstrate. We've come to the precarious position of opening the proverbial can of worms of if, how, in what ways, to what extent, and when these techniques and technologies will be used in weaponized intelligence and national security agenda. Are civilian ethics even viable any longer? And if we engage military ethics, what military ethical principles will we engage?
Check out the big brain on Brad.
That's right. Check out the big brain on Brad, ladies and gentlemen. That's Whoa, that was Dr. Giordano, the mad scientist. And man, I got some stuff here coming up that's going to blow you guys away when he brings up this information. So Epic Journeyman, join us. Bruce McDonald. Bruce, come on in and tell me, give me a little bit of feedback, just right off the top of your head here on some of this stuff that we just heard here in the last 4 or 5 minutes. What do you...
Well, it's funny the way the human mind works, Jimmy. The first thing that came to my mind was, wow, trivia-based game shows are finished. How are you going to be offering cash prizes on Jeopardy to a bunch of mofos who are chipped right into Google? It's done. There's no more game shows.
That's for sure. The game show seems to be a little bit rigged in the government's direction at this point. Some of this stuff here that he's about to get into is these high morbidity microbiologic agents. So microbials with high neuropsychiatric symptom clusters for public panic, public health, and disintegrative effects. Gene editing microbiologicals with novel morbidity and mortality profiles. And you got to hear how he says in here how he could use this to cause the whole system to shut down, the hospital system. Come on in, Epic. I know you just got in from the fire ants, and I don't want to degrade too far into the fire ant, but come on in, man. What do you think about this here, this neuroscience? I sent you the tape on this for a little 5-minute piece.
Yeah, I've been all over this since 1985, actually. And back then, you had a guy named Chuck DeCaro, who was a CNN special reports guy. He did a thing on RF weaponry, electronic weaponry. And had psychotronics and directed energy weapons and all these things. They're very things that he's talking about here. I mentioned back then. And I had come across it, some in the Navy, but I didn't know what it was. And I got out in 1985. But I actually was involved in an experiment, unbeknownst, the whole group of us were at Fleet Combat Weapons Center in San Diego in 1986. And so when I saw this report and I put 2 and 2 together, it's like, oh yeah, this has been going on, for a long time. It's not something that just came up. And so what I found out was there was a book written, and I want to say 1932, but it might have even been as early as 1928, called The Battle for the Mind. It's not the psychology book that you find in today. There's a 1971, I believe, book called The Battle for the Mind. It's a psychology book that you have in colleges and stuff. That's not it. This is a German book written by German scientists, and it's about this very thing, hijacking the brain electronically, right? And it is, it's stunning. I mean, they knew back then, let's say 1932, that this was possible, and it was able to. All you needed was something that had enough transporter power to defeat the barrier of your skull, essentially,
well,
right, at that time.
You know, check this out. So in 1973, first of all, MK Ultra, it was MK Ultra, MK Naomi, MK Special. There's about 7 or 8 MK programs. Okay, so but for some reason the alternative media has gotten stuck on MK Ultra, and which it was one of the big programs, but there was all these other subsequent programs and programs below programs, which Stanford Research Institute was involved in. And one of them that I found here was in 1973, Bowen et al. Provided evidence that brainwaves can be inhibited or enhanced by low-power VHF energy. Animal brainwave patterns went from walking to comatose when Becker placed a magnetic field at the right angle to the brainstream. SRI developed a computer system capable of reading a person's mind and correlating the brainwaves of subjects to an electroencephalograph with specific commands. The concept of mind-reading computers is no longer science fiction. Neither is their use of big brotherly governments. Major Ed Dames said in April 1995 on NBC's Other Side program, the U.S. government has an electronic device which could implant thoughts in people. Dames would not comment any further. So yeah, Ed Dames, and it's funny that Ed Dames is mentioned here because one of the programs was a remote viewing program where they literally discovered the rings of Saturn before they ever saw them with remote viewing capability and technology.
That's a fun one. Yeah, because Project Stargate was SRI, right? That was SRI. And the thing about that was that the people they brought in there, they didn't just have the remote viewers. They brought in people that were psychics, tarot card readers, all kinds of psychic warriors. And that's what it was. That was the program. But the remote viewers was the most successful one. And one of the things that they did that really threw everybody for a loop was they used to just give them coordinates, right? They give them coordinates. And it's like, well, how's that going to work? And how's your brain know what the coordinates are? But it worked, right? And one of the ones they did was put them on the moon, and that worked. Then they put them on Mars, and that worked. Then, like I said, they went to Saturn. So the fact that it worked without telling the subject what it was is phenomenal. Now, you're also talking about amplifying psychic waves and brain waves. So there's a possibility as well that because that amplification process was being conducted, that was really the experiment. The one we don't know about, and it was actually reading the minds of the instructor giving the program to the subject. We don't really know, right? So, but
right.
That's how deep it was.
Well,
yeah.
Check this one out. Now, this one's an important one, too, because recently it's been in the news. And, I mean, we've done shows about being able to transmit information via light that's invisible to the human eye, to that spectrum. So, but I'm reading from something. So, in 1991, Janet Morris issued a number of papers, and the U.S. Army published a detailed draft report on operations concept for disabling measures. Laboratories were developing in high-power, very low-frequency acoustic beam weapons, projecting non-penetrating, high-frequency acoustic bullets. According to one paper, U.S. Special Operations Command already had a portable microwave weapon. U.S. Special Forces can cook internal organs. Infrasound and acoustic beams, very low frequency sound or low frequency RF modulators can cause nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pains. Some very low frequency sound generators in certain frequency ranges can cause disruption of human organs, and at high power level can crumble masonry. And it's funny because you were just talking about the Word of God this morning, Bruce. You know what I mean? The sound and the Word you were talking about, and this is this here. Go ahead.
Praise God! I have a listener.
I'm a loyal listener too, I gotta say.
In the back of my head, I don't believe Rev Radio listeners get up before noon, and I'm just like completely wasted. Me and Mitch.
Well, it wasn't wasted on me because I agree with you 100%. I mean, if I was to just an abstract in this conversation, if I was going to say there was a way to float giant stones into position and build pyramids, it probably has something to do with that. Probably had a little something to do with harmonics and resonance and magnetics. But,
yes.
But
yes.
Anyway.
And I would advise the listener that the Sikhs give a very, very good understanding of the role of sound in spirituality, Guru Nanak onward, for the universal religious scholar.
Right, and if you look at the construction of the cathedrals across Europe, you see that there's a definite, that the magic science was applied to the construction of these places of worship, so that when the liturgies were they were everybody sang together in harmony and reached a resonant tone that you could open up or bring down the stairway to heaven or Jacob's ladder with these tonalities. And a lot of the cathedrals that are the most powerful were not always Christian cathedrals. They were there prior to that. So it's an interesting, we step back into history. Epic, if you want to jump in a little bit on the sacred geometry and the formation, some of the things at Solomon's Temple, bringing down the walls, all this stuff.
Jericho, yeah.
Right.
Well, it's mentioned throughout the Bible, actually, if you're paying attention. Like when it talks about the trumpet sounding, it talks about the word, and then some of the apocryphal books and pseudo-apocryphal books talk about the Seal of Solomon and summoning the entities, right? But the way they levitated the stones, he used them to build the temple, right? And Stonehenge, we know now from the pits where they laid the posts when they had their ceremonies back in the day. It's missing some stones in the rings, and they reconstructed it. They found out that it had an incredible acoustic capability of amplifying certain tones. And which plays, it's a primitive version, or maybe it's a more advanced version, we don't really know, of what was used in the Gothic cathedrals. And if you look in those Gothic cathedrals, especially some of the more famous ones, you'll find, I can only describe them as glyphs, but what they really are is they're cymatic shapes that are based on tones. And in fact, a lot of Eastern religion, and you're talking about Sikhs earlier, Bruce, that's right. And then India's just full of them, Tibet. They have these symbols you'll see in their tapestries and things like that. And those symbols are actually acoustic glyphs formed by cymatics, by certain tones. And those ones, there's some folklore, I don't know if it's true or not, that the original Hebrew language was invented by speaking onto sand resonating on stone, and that formed the glyphs that formed the language, which is both math and words, right? So that's what makes Hebrew kind of unique, is every character is also a number, right? So it's pretty trippy. I mean, I don't know if that folklore is true. I've never seen it played out to be tested to know if there's a way to make that happen. I would think in today's world we would have found it by now, but that's the folklore. That
is why the Epic Journeyman is my co-host right here on Into the Microcosm. Brother, I swear to God, you have some of the most intense recall of facts over such a wide swath of what we call this world that we live in. Bruce, what do you think about that? The cymatic symbols of making sand move. That's pretty intense, man. I mean, I never even considered that, Epic. That's wild, man. Thank you so much. Brilliant.
Yeah, well, I totally believe it. I mean, it's proven out, right? They've done experiments, and I mean, they can do little mini crop circle formations just with these ultrasonic sound things, and a lot of the sort of New Age occult schools get into this kind of stuff, the sacred geometry. And what's the name of that guy? I always forget his name. Really weird name. I think he identifies with the Mayans, but he was big 2012 guy. Forget it. But yeah.
I know who you're talking about. He's got the black goatee and mustache and stuff.
Yeah,
that guy.
that's him.
Yeah, that's him.
Well, hey, listen.
I'll think of it.
We're getting ready to go to break. I want to remind you, we're listener supported, and we're just getting our feet wet here. I'm stoking the fire a little bit. I think I see Bruce with a fresh cigar, He's going to get himself a hot cup of coffee. Epic's here. He's got the day off today. He's jumping in. Brandy's a little bit tied up with her grandson. He's not feeling too well, so let's wish him well. And when we come back, we're going to get into it. Okay, we're off, but we're on YouTube. So I just sent you, that is the throne of the Queen of England in the chat here. And here, I'll throw it up in YouTube as well. Hang on. So that's the throne of the Queen of England that she sits on. And see that stone underneath there? See the stone under the chair? That's
the pillow stone from Jacob's Ladder.
That's right. That's the stone Jacob was leaning on when Stairway to Heaven came down or whatever. Jacob's Ladder. Check that out, man. She sits on that. The coronation chair. It's the rock Jacob sat on. See? There it is. All right, let me get rid of it. All right.
Michael Tsarion. That's TSAR.
Oh, yeah,
right. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember. Man,
yeah.
I didn't use Google. I didn't use my recall. I hate these Captain Googles, man.
I know. You peckerhead. Man, I tell you what, it's too bad we never got our game show going because, man, you would have been the best. You would have been the best dude to be the host because you could have been like Alex Trebek of
Yeah.
Conspiracy. Oh, my God. Yeah, you know what I mean? Do you know what the name of this show is today?
Check out the big brain on Brad. You're smart.
You're smart,
Nice.
You're a smart motherfucker.
That is a tasty burger. It's a Hawaiian place, right?
I know. So yeah, but I can't play the rest of it on especially because me and Bruce hang out, and Bruce got in trouble for the F-bombing, and it's like I'm guilty because I started doing it too. It was spreading like a cancer. They had to squash it out. So no more F-bombs.
Well, the funniest one was your buddy, the guitar player. He came on and started F-bombing, and I started bombing back. Stop.
Bruce, I had my buddy on, and I told him the one thing you can't do is, drop the F-bomb, and he dropped it by accident, and he kept doing it, and kept doing it, and kept doing it, man. It was just, and it got to the point where it was almost like a comedy routine, like we planned it. It was so funny. All right, we got to go back. So I'm going to, I got to cue something up real quick. Hang on.
Gas and VX and other forms of neurotoxic agents, a combative group of his brain, his thought patterns, his relative emotionality, and the behaviors that go along with that. One of two things might happen. He might be completely incapacitated as a consequence of this.
All right, I got to go back. Damn. All right, here we go.
This guy has figured me out. I hear it on Tuesday, and he is telling the truth.
Change his level of
I mean lies.
capacity
Stay
By
away
now,
from
he
this
leaves
guy.
this meeting.
Where's my good hairbrush? Anybody
Video
see my
remarks.
mama?
May not want to kill.
Want to learn more about the Marxist agenda and other important stuff? Listen to The Ultimate Remedy with LB Bork.
get a few people
Tuesdays,
sick.
6
I do it on
p.m.
an
Eastern.
airplane. Do it on an airplane.
Right here on
With
Revolution
exploding
Radio.
for shooting up German airplanes, but letting them lift whole, particularly bomber aircraft. And they would add this cell amount of and they would. I can use it.
It's too late to fall in love with Sharon Tate, but it's too soon to ask me for the words someone called on my tune. I think it's time that you all start to think about getting by without that need to go out and find somebody to love.
My name's Jimmy. This is Revolution Radio. Hey, thanks for joining us, man. It's into the Microcosm Monday Primetime Edition, but you got the late night crew and the morning crew all in one place. We might not be Mr. Rights, but we're definitely Mr. Rights now. And right now, we're talking about the heinous science. This is the dirty science, man. This is the science that gets inside of your brain, man, without your permission, sonny. You understand what I'm saying to you? So how are your thoughts your own? I don't know. There's some tactical stuff going on here because the brain, apparently, according to Dr. James Giordano, the brain is the battlefield of the future. And he happens to be the man with the plan. Because a man without a plan is like a ship without a course. So only fate is disaster. So they figured out a way to eliminate all the unknown possibilities by helping you to come to a decision without your own cognitive abilities. You just think it. Therefore, it is. My name's Jimmy. It's in the Microcosm. Bruce McDonald, epic journeyman. Let's listen to this dude.
That bug, virulent, pathogenic, dangerous. And then what could I do? I could introduce that. Why didn't you shoot that plane down? And his adage was simple. Better to have that plane return home with wounded crew who are spitting up their lungs, one dead crewman that they had to attend to and therefore divert their missional capability while in flight, than shoot them down. Because the psychological effect will be rippling and devastating. This is sometimes referred to as the Malin effect. What can I do? I can use a particular bug that I may be able to now modify through the use of gene editing technique that is ubiquitously available and fairly easy to use.
Okay, so here, I just want to jump in here real quick, and I want to say, this is 2018 he made this presentation. And he is just he's out on speculation island right now. In other words, he's saying, this is what someone could do. And he's going to make a point on how you don't need giant facilities to build nuclear bombs and to do this kind of stuff. This is easily done to people. Check this out.
This is sometimes referred to as the Malin effect. What can I do? I can use a particular bug that I may be able to now modify through the use of gene editing technique that is ubiquitously available and fairly easy to use to take a bug that was previously relatively benign and non-pathogenic and make that bug virulent, pathogenic, dangerous. And then what could I do? I could introduce that bug in key sites. Des Moines, Seattle, Tampa, Newark, Houston. I'd get a few people sick. I'd do it on an airplane, do it at an airport, do it at a sporting event, do it on Black Friday. And then what I would do is I would take credit for that, but I'd want to make sure that at least part of the symptomatic constellation was not only neurological, was profoundly psychological. Agitation, debilitation, sweating, stomach problems, sleeplessness, cardiac problems, things that are what we call top-down neurological in their effect, brain to body and body to brain in the bottom-up cascade. Then what I would do is I would get on the internet and I would put out over the internet, I did it. Oh yes, I'm that dangerous G group that you should all be afraid of. And in fact, this is far more ubiquitous than I let on. These are only the first cases. I've let these buggies go all over the country, and your early warning signs are agitation, anxiety, worry, sleeplessness, stomach problems, heart problems. What have I done? I've rippled the sheets of the worried well. At first blush, I get every hypochondriac running to their physician, but at second and third blush, I get those individuals who begin to become worried that they may have been exposed to this, that their children may have been exposed to this, that their loved ones, their kin, their kith may have been exposed to this. Of course, the physicians, the CDC, the Public Health Service comes back and says, no, that's not what's going on. But I get back on the internet and I say, oh, don't you listen to that. That's fake. That's false. Your government knows what's going on. They can't do anything about it and they can't treat you. They're going to end up quarantining you. How many people would I need to affect? We modeled it. somewhere between 12 and 240. What would be the effect? Hang on, folks. Within 41 to 45 days, we would crash the United States public health system. Crash it. In so doing, I render the United States infrastructure vulnerable, either there or elsewhere. See the ripple effect? See the disruptive effect? I can disrupt an individual from the level of their cell to their system, and disrupt individuals on a variety of levels, from individuals all the way up to the social fabric. And that social fabric may go even further. It may be geopolitical. I need you to think just for a moment, if you could, why would it be of any value at all to affect, disrupt, and disable individuals who are U.S. Embassy personnel in Havana?
All right. So what do you think? I mean, there it is, right? Is that not it? Is that pretty much it? This is not a whistleblower, ladies and gentlemen. This is a guy making a presentation to a military college. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's fun. It's funny to me. I don't mean in the humorous sense, obviously, but that this has been going on for a long time. I mean, it's not like it's the reason he's able to talk about it and not get in trouble is it's already out there. Like when I learned of this stuff back in the 80s, people were scared to death to talk about it. It was like you wouldn't even talk about it. You'd what do you want to call it? Censor, right? Your speech. It's talking to other people, even people I knew in the intelligence community. They wouldn't talk about it. It's like, no, we're not talking about that. You know what I mean? Like people had security clearances. We used to run out SEAL teams with the subs and stuff all the time, stuff like that. They wouldn't talk about it. Like the barrier he talked about rather earlier about the microwave low frequency weapon that messed with people, gave them nausea or could kill them, mess up the organs. That was something that the SEAL teams had back then. That they used to deploy like a picket, like a fence line, but it was an electronic fence line, right, for when they wanted to sleep on deployment. And I guess I could talk about it now because it's been over 30 years, right? 35.
Well, hold on
before
you talk about it. Let's get Bruce in here. Bruce, did you just hear that scenario right there played out and how I mean it sounded exactly like what we've gone through here with this whole thing, and the 45-day period is what they would consider a quarantine. So it's interesting. Please come in and give me your opinion here on this last little piece here from the doctor.
Well, honestly, Jimmy, I missed everything except for like the last 90 seconds or so. I had to get a quick fire started. I apologize.
Oh, I thought when you said okay, I thought you wanted me to stop because you wanted to get into what this dude was saying.
No, that means I just got back.
All right. Well, I wasn't paying attention. I guess I must have missed it, but. In any event, Epic, what did you think about what he was just saying about this? That they extrapolated it out. They figured that all they had to do is infect between 12 and 240 people, and then put out this other information. Here, you know what, man? I mean, we got nothing but time here.
Power. It may be that his followers will then follow him blindly.
Hang on a second. Let me bounce back to this here.
Modify through the use of gene editing technique that is ubiquitously available and fairly easy to use to take a bug that was previously relatively benign and non-pathogenic and make that bug virulent, pathogenic, dangerous. And then what could I do? I could introduce that bug in key sites. Des Moines, Seattle, Tampa, Newark, Houston. I'd get a few people sick. I'd do it on an airplane, do it at an airport, do it at a sporting event, do it on Black Friday. And then what I would do is I would take credit for that, but I'd want to make sure that at least part of the symptomatic constellation was not only neurological, was profoundly psychological. Agitation, debilitation, sweating, stomach problems, sleeplessness, cardiac problems, things that are what we call top-down neurological in their effect, brain to body and body to brain in the bottom-up cascade. Then what I would do is I would get on the internet, and I would put out over the internet, I did it. Oh yes, I'm that dangerous G group that you should all be afraid of. And in fact, this is far more ubiquitous than I let on. These are only the first cases. I've let these buggies go all over the country, and your early warning signs are agitation, anxiety, worry, sleeplessness, stomach problems, heart problems. What have I done? I've rippled the sheets of the worried well. At first blush, I get every hypochondriac running to their physician, but at second and third blush, I get those individuals who begin to become worried that they may have been exposed to this, that their children may have been exposed to this, that their loved ones, their kin, their kith may have been exposed to this. Of course, the physicians, the CDC, the Public Health Service comes back and says, no, that's not what's going on. But I get back on the internet and I say, oh, don't you listen to that. That's fake. That's false. Your government knows what's going on. They can't do anything about it and they can't treat you. They're going to end up quarantining you. How many people would I need to affect? We modeled it. Somewhere between 12 and 240. What would be the effect? Hang on, folks. Within 41 to 45 days, we would crash the United States public health system. Crash it. In so doing, I render the United States infrastructure vulnerable, either there or elsewhere. See the ripple effect? See the disruptive effect? I can disrupt an individual from the level of their cell to their system, and disrupt individuals on a variety of levels, from individuals all the way up to the social fabric.
Individuals all the way up until the social fabric. So here it is. Here is a scenario. This dude's out on Speculation Island telling these guys that some bad actor could do this and shut down the whole American healthcare system, which is what they were trying to avoid with this last thing that happened. And when you start to correlate some of this in with what this guy's saying, and you think back to when the COVID thing started, and you think back to the people, lots of people were scared, people run the hospital, just like he's saying. I mean, pretty much everything this guy said happened. So, and then in actuality, you see that there wasn't as many as people thought, per se, in these hospitals. So how much was it? Was this a psychological operation? But they were afraid that they would lose the entire health system and it could be crashed by something like this. So they jumped in front of it with measures. What do you guys think about that stuff we just heard? Bruce, Epic, either one of you guys jump in. You got the floor.
Well, I have a question first. Do you guys see the footprints of this technology in anything in our timeline since the 80s? Let's begin where Epic knew about it. Like, let me just throw a few curveballs out here, like Georgetown, Guyana, like that Heaven's Gate software programmers who committed mass suicide. Or are there any religions, do you think, that are operating right now that are employing this technology of direct communication to the human mind?
100%. I think so. I've been seeing the signs since I first learned of it. I mean, that's the thing, is that it looks to me like it went live in the 70s for sure, no question about it. And it's only gotten better ever since. Like what they learned with this, I'm just going to call it RF weaponry. It's a blanket statement that covers psychotronics and the whole thing, right? So what they learned about it was to affect the psychology, to affect the mind, it was pretty easy to do if you're close enough to the person, right? But you needed something that was able to transmit and break that brain barrier, right? the skull barrier. And what they did in Soviet institutions, mental institutions, they put a lot of dissidents in these institutions, and they had these 3 to 4 foot high little stations stationed every 20 to 30 feet down like the hallways and the rooms and stuff. They just let out these broadband clicks, right? Just RF clicks. And there were people who came out of those institutions, and they were interviewed by this Chuck DeCaro guy I was talking about earlier, who came out of the institution and didn't remember a single day they were there. They said, well, what it was like was every time we tried to have a thought train and continue a thought, it was interrupted. It was just interrupted every second or two whenever this thing clicked, right? And so Woodpecker reminds me of that a little bit.
Yeah, and
but also it reminds me of the fact that now we have something that relays frequency and amplifies it to us in the form of our cell phones, internet, and all these other things. So now there's a mechanism in play to take the encoded message and amplify it on site.
Yeah, I mean, and as far as Jonestown, Jonestown was a complete and total operation.
Yeah.
It was a total experiment. I don't personally know of any RF parts of that, but what I do know is that there's a whole other part of this technology that was developed that's not just what we're talking about here. This is the ability for them to, for example, he talked earlier about nanoparticulate aerosols that could be, sprayed on an individual, and then once they were in the person's brain, they would have ability to transmit to that person. So you have this, you have this overwhelming, there's a big correlation, and that's the problem with it, is that a lot of what goes on with electronic harassment is also the exact, if you were to say what is electronic harassment and name 5 things, those 5 things you name also happen to be the 5 things that say you're crazy. So there's a lot of schizophrenic people that say they hear voices, and then there's people that are targeted individuals that are having voices put into their head. So there's no question. But the thing to really be cognizant of too is not only is it from a sonic or subsonic level, but there's also drugging involved. There's a type of pharmaceuticals that could be applied to a population to put them in a certain mind space, and I'll go out on speculation island, and let's just say I'll offset the cost of you coming up with an antidepressant if you let me put this ingredient in there. Kind of like that. And then everybody runs around prescribing antidepressants until they've done tests on the water. Epic, do you know about these national tests they've done on water?
Yeah.
On the reclamation of the pissing of these drugs back into the system. Do you know what the percentages are of how much of this antidepressants and all the stuff they find in the sewage and the water?
It's like 66% of the population. Yeah, I do know about that. So it's just an estimate, obviously, but yeah, the amount of psychotropic drugs and just basically, stuff like Ambien and Xanax and all this other stuff, just any kind of pharmaceutical. It all comes down, it all gets reclaimed water and it ends up on the golf course or wherever, right?
Or do they spray it on food? They have this thing.
Yeah. It's used to water the crops. Yeah.
Right, and they have a thing called Dillo dirt, ladies and gentlemen, and this is dirt that they take and they get the waste, the human excrement, they dry it out, and they sell it back to farmers to put in their organic gardens. Because guess what? It's totally organic. Except it's full of all that. It's full of it, man. It's full of all that stuff. So anyways, the chemical aspect of it is also part of it. So from an overall populational perspective, let's bring it back down to the microcosm. We'll go back a little bit, because LSD plus hypnotism equals mind control. LSD and dopamine, an LSD trip causes a lot of activity with your dopamine. Okay, so now let's jam it back over here. I'm sticking it into fifth, and I'm coming back to Facebook over here where I get my dopamine injection. Okay, my hypnotism, I don't need a hypnotist anymore. Everybody's mesmerized. We're mesmerized, right? Mesmerized by our phone. We're hypnotized, and we're sonically entranced by subsonic messages that come across. And, it's only marketing, though. I'm just trying to advertise to you. Right?
Yeah. It is amazing how much has been done to degrade our societies under the banner of commerce.
Well, everything's based in profit, and once Timothy Leary admitted that he was responsible in the closeout meeting for the social engineering of the 60s, that he was personally responsible for turning the American people into pleasure seekers, Okay, then came the 70s where they commercialized the pleasure seeking, and then came the 80s where they dumped a shitload of cocaine on America and let everybody go wild in the decade of decadence. Okay, and then the 90s was the depression decade. It was the recovery decade. It was the decade where everybody, if you survived, you got into treatment, dude. It was the beginning of the depressive heroin. Because, see, the coke was coming in strong, but when Afghanistan was full of Russians, there wasn't that much heroin to have. So once the Russians got out, man, then all of a sudden here comes Nirvana, here comes the 90s, here comes all the depressive heroin music out of Seattle with the it's cloudy every day, dudes just laying around shooting dope. It's all depressing and slow and crying about his this or that. I mean, it just totally changed from the 80s where everybody was snorting blow, getting laid, and having a good time. And if you survived, you were depressed, and you needed some antidepressants in the 90s. And that's
there was a study, actually, sorry to interrupt, but about the 80s, because of all the cocaine, about not just the dopamine, but other chemicals in your brain that are the neural buffers, like the ones that nicotine mimics. They go away and make you edgy. If you stop using nicotine, right, those neural buffers go away. That's what makes you edgy and why you have to smoke again. It's the same kind of things. They found out that people who have a lot of cocaine abuse, right, the ability to manufacture both of those drugs is severely declined. It takes 3 months or more to even get back the neural buffers, just to quit smoking to be normal. But to get the dopamine manufacturing back and the other enzymes that your brain makes to make you feel okay, right, and feel normal, it could be years in some cases. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. So you kind of you depleted your reserve, you know what I mean? The people who were caught up in it, a lot of us were back in the day. Yeah, it makes sense, you know. The 90s are the rehab decade.
Yeah, and the thing is, and that's when the lexicon, I mean, that's, we see the 120-month program right there, because, that's when the lexicon changed, because all these people that were celebrities in the 70s and in the 80s, they had to get sober, man. Like, look, I'll use Aerosmith as an example. Aerosmith got sober. They got back together. I mean, Joe and Steve hated each other. They were pissed. They got sober. They started. But I'm just saying, when you get guys like these, are the role models out there, going through programs, which is good. If you need to get sober, get sober. If you got a problem, you have a problem. But what I'm getting at is this is when the whole lexicon of this self-help language really started to get into the public. Where everybody's just an armchair psychologist. Everybody's just using this new 12-step recovery language that all the celebrities seem to be using. What do you guys think about that? Bruce, go ahead.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I hadn't put that all together in my mind there about the 90s, but it does fit, eh? And then Pulp Fiction comes to mind with Quentin Tarantino and Eric Stoltz doing that whole film within a film, which is a tribute to heroin, right? And yeah, you can almost mark the decades by the drug. So the 70s were like Sinsemilla, when the Mexicans figured out how to create a strain of marijuana that had no seeds, Sinsemilla. And then the 80s, here comes the coke, here comes Pablo. And then the 90s, when did the MDMA come in? When did the ecstasy?
It actually came in the 70s, but it became popular in the 90s.
Yeah, and it was popular
in the 90s. Yeah,
it was called Black Beauties when it first came out. It was called Black Beauties, but then later on, that's when it was called MDMA. And that was basically, that was a whole nother thing that happened sonically. There was a big change, and there was just like they did with the Grateful Dead and all the experimenting that they did with those frequencies and beats and those particular electromagnetic interference programs that they learned how to run. They got that into the whole MDMA. Give you this pill, because like I've been keep saying, these drugs are an integral part of all of this stuff. In the beginning, you needed the drug to get the effect. But now with the behavior modification complex, the drug isn't necessary per se. We can achieve the same result via electronic manipulation, is why You know, this whole thing all goes together because everything that was learned up until the point where you could be electronically interfered with on a daily basis has been put into, just imagine, it was thrown into this giant bin of a computer that put it all together, all the facts, all the psychologies, all the testing, all this stuff. It has access to all that information, and it can decide. I mean, it can pick you out in 2 seconds flat. So
I think it's cool. We're
on the
talking
break.
with Bruce. We were just saying about the drugs being by the decade. You mentioned Pavlov.
Hang on.
Pavlov earlier.
We're on the break. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we're back on YouTube though. Go ahead. You can say it, but don't.
Oh no, that's good for the show, man.
All right. Well, make sure you tie a string around your finger so when we come back, you don't forget.
Yeah, no, it's about the cocaine experiments you did with the Pavlov response in mice and rats with cocaine.
Cool,
and
yeah.
how that led to the something else that could take the place of that, because it created obsessive compulsive behavior, right? And so the obsessive compulsive behavior became an addiction. And that addiction became satisfied by the advent of the internet, right? to click on things, just like the mice clicking on the little tab, you know, the same exact thing. That's what it is.
Hey, Bruce, we got another hour. So on this next hour, if you wouldn't mind, if you could think of any questions you would ask us about the book, maybe you could ask us, you know, within the context of what we're talking about, and we can give you some answers and get some stuff out of Epic because he's so busy. So I'll hang back.
Yeah, I'm still trying to build the house back up. Yeah,
I know. I'll hang back and let you really deliver some stuff here, Epic, in the second half. All right, so let me get some music, you guys. Jump in and say hello to the chat over there. Can you see the chat, Epic? I'm over there somewhere. I just don't.
I have to move around.
Yeah, it's all right.
Get over there.
It's okay. It's all right. It's okay. It don't matter anyway. Hey, what's up, Kev Baker listeners? I know they're going to be coming over after Kev's done. So let me chill this. I can hear a bunch of hissing. There's a hiss.
That's the fan. That's my fan. Hold on a second.
All right. Get rid of the hiss, dude. Hold on just a little longer. Just a little longer. Here we go. We got to go back in a minute here after this commercial runs. Make your move, son. You know, one of the best movies of all time, one of the best lines of any movie of all time for me is every now and then you just got to say, what the fuck? And then the best part is that when his whole house is torn up and the dude's trying to leave and he goes, hey, mister, what the fuck? And he goes, sorry, I got to go. I checked it. That shit's gonna rattle some license plate covers. I'm gonna be rattling some license plate covers. Here we go. We're back, Jack, to do it again.
And extract an essence of reality from a fog of illusion and confusion. You can find me on Studio B every Thursday, 1700 hours Pacific Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern. No topic taboo, no subject too strange. I strive to take a neutral standpoint during the dissection of the topic at hand. That's Reality Extraction with Mr. Rowe on Revolution Radio.
to the dirt, now I'm back on my crime. I took a trip to the borderlines and I doused my head in some upstream brine. I saw a man in a two-tone coat, told me everything he liked about the songs I wrote. Turned his head into my surprise, he had fire on his tongue and green in his eyes.
My name's Jimmy.
I won't let him get the best of me. No.
Revolution Radio.
Take the money, just leave me be. Hey, I've been rolling with the punches. Hey, I've been rolling with the punches.
I've been rolling with the punches. That's right. It's the Blue Stones. Great band. I'm here with McDonald in the Morning superstar, Bruce McDonald. Everybody loves the McDonald in the Morning. It's like a cold shower of reality and fun and jokes and laughs and all kinds of material. I mean, literally, Bruce, you're getting into the Great Reset by Mr. Schwab. So I hope people tune in tomorrow at 7 a.m. Pacific. What is it, 9 Eastern or something? 10? I don't know what it is, man. I live in the West. But tell everybody, you're going through the Great Reset. I mean, the dude wrote a book. He jumped.
Yeah, Klaus Schwab and some co-writer did a book. And I mean, they must have written this in about 3 weeks. So it was probably a team effort. And it's basically a manifesto. And reads very much like a manifesto, but it's a dispassionate manifesto. It's like an AI manifesto. It's really, really quite something. And it's just amazing to me that we could even be considering something like this, and national leaders like Justin Trudeau could be, saying that COVID-19 is an opportunity for the Great Reset, that we could go through or even contemplate something like this without an election, without addressing people, is just, people say we're conspiracy theorists. I don't see what the problem is. I mean, they're pretty much telling you it's a tyranny. Yeah, we're going to do this Great Reset now. X number of you are going to die. We figured it out all mathematically, but don't worry, it's not going to be anybody really cares about. You know that homeless camp about 12 blocks down from your condo you paid $500,000 for? Yeah, that's not going to be there past 2025. Don't you worry about it. And
well, the thing is, Bruce, is it ties into exactly what we're talking about right now, because there's been social engineering taking place to make people ready for the Great Reset. Just like all of a sudden you started hearing, when did you start hearing this, the deep state, the deep state, the deep state, and then all of a sudden you started hearing narrative. When did people start talking about narratives? When did something called the deep state be okay? That they said it so many times that it seems like it's just this thing. It doesn't exist. It's just like the Great Reset. They did that too. So in the middle of the COVID operation, they started the social engineering on this whole Great Reset, having people say it. Yeah. They said it, but nobody knew what it meant. It's like when Obama said change, everybody made it mean what they wanted it to mean in their own head, but not actually finding out what the hell he even meant by that. But anyway, it's the same thing. The Great Reset, what does it mean? I don't know. All of a sudden, I see the dude showing up in some uniform that looks like he beamed down from the fucking Enterprise, man. And then here's the Great Reset. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's a little bit crazy. Epic Journeyman, jump on in here, because I know you wanted to. We're going to snap back to reality here for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Outside of the Great Reset, it's not okay, and you should look into it. It isn't a conspiracy theory. So make sure you tune in tomorrow here on Revolution Radio. We are #1 listener supported, and if you mosey on over, I open the guitar case at 3 o'clock, and I'm out of here in an hour. So you guys can head on over there, throw something in there if you like what we're doing, if you like what we're, bringing to the table. Studio A, Studio B, 48 hours a day, ladies and gentlemen, 7 days a week, home of industrial strength information. if you don't like this show, don't worry. It's like the weather, you know. There'll be another breeze coming through here right after I'm gone. But in the meantime, come on in, Epic, and let's jump a little bit onto that, what you were saying there about the cocaine, because it's running all around my brain.
Yeah, I don't want to miss out on the Great Reset, because there's some good stuff there and how that all got started with the World Economic Forum. But yeah, the thing about the drug goalposts that came along in the decades of the 70s, you know, was mostly hallucinogens and marijuana, right? And the 80s was cocaine, and the 90s became heroin again, when heroin was kind of the thing in the early 70s, late 60s, also kind of a fringe thing, right? But the cocaine by itself is really interesting, because there were so many studies that were done on cocaine leading into it, from the 70s to the 80s, with the Rat Park experiments the Canadian psychologists did, and some other ones were done, and here, like SRI, obviously, and other places. And one of the things they found was that if a rat, or, you know, a mouse or rat was left with basically nothing to do but stimulate themselves with cocaine, if they hit this little like knob to give themselves a dose, right, they would keep doing that until it killed them. They just keep doing it until it killed them, right? But then they found later on that if you gave them some stimulated environment, back in the 2000s, 2015, they did another experiment. You gave a stimulated environment to go to, you left that alone, then they wouldn't hit the cocaine. They'd avoid the cocaine water, right? But if you left them with basically a boring environment, they would just kill themselves, seeking that pleasure, right? Just getting that hit. Well, the thing that's interesting is it's about being directed to do that, like being directed to do it, and that being an option becomes part of a culture. I mean, the culture of the 80s, for part of it, was exactly that: just get high, you know, just get high and do your thing, and you know, it's all you know, it's pretty fast, right? And still free love's going on pre-AIDS, right? So it just played right into that, and even post-AIDS,
and it also going strong. I was going to say, it also played into the whole Bush cocaine connection.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Iran,
and Jonestown, yes, absolutely.
Iran Contra, right? The CIA, and it's the same. It's the same East Indian Tea Company.
Yeah, well, it's Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones is all about called gray economy. It was opium back in the day, then it became cocaine, then went back to opium. Yeah, I mean that's what it is. That's why the symbols of Skull and Bones. The Skull and Bones was on the old opium, and what's said drug they used to give the women back in Wild West days. Anyway,
right. But hey, let me just point out. Let me point out too. You know, does everybody notice the big opioid crisis? You know, the opium's growing strong over there in Afghanistan now that our boys are over there making sure they're keeping you know, democracy going strong.
Spraying the Miracle Grow on
you
the
know,
crops, yeah.
But hey, listen. Here's how they worked it though. They got everybody addicted through the medical system by having all these guys passing off the opioids to people, and then they cut them off and say you're an addict now, because if you have pain and you need opioids, you have pain, you're an addict. So now what happens? Boom, they're getting paid both times. Now they're getting it off the streets. People who used to get their pain medicine through the doctors are now going to the streets to, you know, kill their pain, man. You know, so I mean, it's a hideous and an insidious, ubiquitous situation, and there's a combination of the drug of the decade and the engineering of the decade and how it plays out.
Yeah. So the pay dirt on this is that when they learn that, right? So the two things together, like the one, they'll impulsive. It's like obsessive compulsive behavior. The rats, the mice will do it until they die, right? But if you give them good stimulation away from that, they'll avoid it. So what they do, they trained us. They got us into that obsessive compulsive kind of mindset with the cocaine, the instant gratification, the flashover substance. And then in the 90s, what came along? The internet, but specifically later in the 90s, the broadband internet, and eventually the cell phone. So what we have now is that same kind of that stimulated environment through the dopamine hits we get hitting our phones, hitting our social media buttons and tabs and things like that. So basically, you can see the exact parallel from what the rats were doing, with the tests they were doing, the Pavlovian response instilled in them into the culture of not just the rat culture, but our culture, and then taking it to the next level to where now we can avoid the cocaine, but we still get the same trained response, the conditioned response of seeking to hit that button to get that pleasure with a dopamine hit.
Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's really well mapped out now. I mean, I wonder what's going on with that though, because that program's almost being ratted out before it even got off the ground, right? You're seeing Netflix documentaries on the dangers of social media, former CEOs or CTOs, chief technology officers, bailing and doing documentaries or giving TED Talks, and quite a few of them actually, like a disproportionate number of executive level personalities have popped out of the social media world to warn of its dangers, you know.
Yeah, well, the thing is everybody told you how dangerous it was to snort that cocaine too, and there was
they do, don't you? Hence the skull and bones. You can't say you weren't told.
That's right, and hey man, lots of people were running around like that first rat that Epic was talking about, just running around having sex, man. I mean, there was nothing going on but the rent, man. Money was flowing, man. Man, the Silicon Valley was alive, man. It was just buzzing. I mean, everything was going on, man. The military contracts, Reagan, CIA dudes in there, man. The big industrial complex buyout. All these companies, Varian, HP, the big players over here. SRI. SRI had a mind-reading computer in what did it say? 1973.
He said 72, 73, but they built their AI in 1962.
Right, and that goes back. And so, man, it's just literally, and drugs, like I said, they're an integral part of any healthy mind control program. My name's Jimmy. I'm mind controlling you right now. Hey man, if you want to hang out, you better pull it out.
If you want to get down on the ground, cocaine.
See, if you want to get down on the ground. It doesn't sound like a good place to be, down on the ground, does it?
Shit don't lie, shit don't lie, shit don't lie. Cocaine.
Shit don't lie. Shit don't lie. Shit don't lie. Cocaine. It's 100% correct, man. The thing is, it's like he's singing about it. He's telling people about it. And how many millions of people were sitting there chopping their blow, snorting coke, listening to this song when it's all about exactly what it's about. And they think, it's like it's a party song. You know what I'm saying? Not only that, but people went down to the record stores, dragged the record all the way back to their house, and then played it over and over and over and over again. So with the mind control and the fact that I could get you to go down and pay me $15 to take home the stuff that I want to mind control you with, and have you listen to it over and over and over and over again while you're snorting blow all day, snorting up the rent, killing yourself. Oh, wait.
It's telling you it's all right, though. It's all right, right? And it's telling you, if you want to hang out, you got to break it out, It's a social drug, right? I mean, it's all right there. And, of course, to hear Eric tell it, it's about the girl. The girl's name's Cocaine. Well, no, of course not. That's ridiculous, but that's the story. He's sticking to it.
Man, if you were at a party and you were just sitting there or whatever, and somebody just came up to you with a bundle of blow, they go, hey, man, you want to go do some blow? The answer every time was yeah. Nobody was saying no. There was no just say no back then. There was no saying no. All those no sayings came later. And that, like we were saying, the 90s was a key moment. That was a moment where everything went from partying and literally swinging from the rafters. People just go watch a Def Leppard video, man. One of their live shows, produced. There's people screaming and having a good time. Everybody's nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit. Meanwhile, back then, nobody even knew there was anything going on with the government, really. I mean, they did, but not like they do now. So they're just partying, and things are going by. The 80s went by into the 90s, and when the 80s were going by, so much of this technology was weaponized and turned into what we now know, EPIC, as a behavior modification complex.
Can I grab a segue?
Please.
Okay. So you said something very interesting there. You said back then they didn't understand mind control and what was going on the way we're talking about today. What do you think the fact that we're talking about these things means for 2020? Does it mean that they're so far ahead of us now that we can openly discuss this 1970s and 1980s stuff because we have no way of figuring out what they're doing now and it's all a moot point anyways? Or, are we on the verge of the big win?
Sadly, I think it's the former. It's all gamed out. It's gamed out. I mean, they know that we are going to know. And the idea is that we're not going to care. It's the Huxleyan, I've coined the term, I don't know if it's a real term, this Huxley idea of let them embrace their servitude, let them like their servitude, Soma, right? Yeah. So basically the idea is going to be that we're going to be so addicted to this AR mirror world. They call it mirror world. It's a stupid name, but this AR, augmented reality, right? It's hyper reality that they're building that you're not going to be able to get around without it. You're going to have access to every information tidbit you want instantly directly to your brain. You're going to be able to, see the little window in anybody's head that you walk by on the street and know when you met them, what their name is, the whole 9 yards. And it's going to be so much sensory overload that at first it's going to be kind of frightening. Maybe they'll ease you into it, maybe they won't. But then when you take it away, life will be so dull by comparison that you'll be that that rat hitting the cocaine again if you don't.
Yeah, just right? Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And the thing about it is, though, is that it doesn't even have to get it doesn't have to get that weird, man. It doesn't have to get that weird because, the social engineering in conjunction, I mean, all of everything that adds up to whatever it is the equation is for you is delivered to you personally. Just like this dude said earlier, they can influence an individual, groups of individuals, whole organic, subsystems of all these different groups, and they can pull those groups out. Literally, it can be pulled out and shown in a 3D model space, and then the psychological aspects of how to make it happen just appear on a side screen. You can just pull this thing down and just make it happen. It's like a drop-down menu. Go ahead.
It's a sentient world simulation. That's what it was for. So the idea is it maps out the spheres of influence that everybody has. Everybody thinks about like predicting, hurricane relief and how that's going to be done. No, it's not what it is. What it is, and that's what Snowden revealed. Edward Snowden revealed in his NSA drop, the whole point of all this surveillance was to make the sentient world simulation better. A lot of people miss that. Go read it. It's right there, right? And the thing is that
Epic, can you dumb that down for me a bit, and probably 90% of the listeners?
Okay, so the Sentient World Simulation is a computer program that was started by Purdue University in 2007, I believe it was. And it was originally a DARPA-funded program, but it was still a collegiate program. It was funded independently by the college as well. So what they did was, the idea was to take every person's information that they have on Earth, every single person on Earth have any information about it, any kind of data whatsoever, whether it be their general data like their just demographic data, age and income and stuff like that, anything, and then start adding more to it to make personal avatars for each individual. So the more information you have on each individual, the better you can predict their behavior. So if somebody in third world country in Ethiopia, maybe you don't have that much information on other than their name, their age, and their income bracket, but somebody in America who's on the internet or doing Facebook posts, they know everything about them, right? And what their buying impulses are and all that kind of stuff. It all gets added in there. And as it gets better, the idea is to be able to literally predict the future. It's about predicting the future. So when it first started, they felt they could predict the future reasonably well within something like, a minute, 30 seconds, something like that. And it's gotten so much better and higher resolution now, they can predict it according to some people, hours ahead of time, if not more than that, right? What's going to happen? So let's say an asteroid hits in the Bahamas. They'll know exactly what everybody's response is going to be and how it's going to work out, and be able to map it. That's what they say from a response kind of mapping out, tool. But the military took it over in, I want to say 2009, somewhere in there, 2009, 2011, not positive when, but it went to the military. But the thing is, it's still now it's hooked up to some advanced artificial intelligence. All this information still gets added to it, and the idea is that what it looks for is what's called nodes, right? And these nodes are whether they be people or spheres of influence. So if it's a sphere of influence, maybe a Facebook group that has this particular amount of influence, and that group influences this many more people beyond it. That's what Cambridge Analytica used during the election to influence people. Not just our election 2016, but if you watch The Great Hack, that whole thing, it was all about that, right? The spheres of influence, identifying the spheres of influence and directing them to steer more people in a cascade effect, right? But the thing is, what it really is about is the granularity of individuality. If you can find an individual that influences a large group of people, if that's a node, that's a powerful node. And that's what we're talking about with the doctor there, right?
It's frightening. You're describing trickle-down propaganda. It marries Thatcher and Reagan's economic program. It's trickle-down propaganda.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's a good way to describe it, Bruce. Go ahead, Epic. Go ahead, you guys. Go ahead and take it. We've got about 5 minutes before the bottom of the hour.
Well, I do want to say that, what you can look up the Sentient World Simulation. You can still find that original 2007 article, several of them, in 2009, and read about it. And you can read Snowden stuff. And you can see all that, and you can see it in some of these other documentaries later on. But it's kind of gone, I want to say underground, but people aren't talking about it like they should, because it's only gotten better, right? It's only gotten better. And the idea is to get it to the individual level. So when you think about marketing and a lot of people, they're starting to notice that they don't even talk about things anymore. They'll be thinking about a camera lens or something, some obscure thing. It'll show up on their news feed. It'll show up as an advertisement on the internet, right? Well, how is that? Well, is it because it's reading your mind? That's possible. Or is it also because it's so well tuned to you to know that the way you acted around it, the keystrokes you made, the way it mapped your facial signature, whatever through your camera, whatever it had, the things you did with your phone, your location data, that it's able to predict what you want. And that's what they say they can do. That's the objective, is to get to that point. Now, when you consider it is run by an artificial intelligence, the entire thing is not controlled by humans. Humans ask the question, but it's all about algorithms. And I'm not saying that it's a sentient AI yet, but it runs its own way. It's doing predictions. It's a giant magic 8-ball that you put a question into now, and it gives you an answer. Which is what quantum computers do as well. And the theory a lot of people have is turning into a quantum-based system.
People just don't see it enough yet, Epic, but it's right around the corner, man. You're going to be looking at AI underwriters for your car insurance, AI insurance brokers, everything. The amount, all that sort of mid-tier ghoulish office work that pays about $65K a year, like insurance and all that crap, or backroom banking, that's all going away, man. It's all going away. They're
totally.
going to have, yeah.
And
there's literally going to be hardly anything left for human beings to do, except what I do on this mountain.
Or you could be like me and coping with the fire ants and the coqui frogs.
Well, hey, man, it ties into what you were saying with all the whistleblowers coming out, and people don't care, man. People are still on Facebook. People are still doing everything. And just like you were saying, in a brave new world, people don't care, man. Everyone belongs to everyone else. And they'll just grab that soma and take your drugs. And, let's go. We're right here at the break. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Mosey on over, become a patron. Go to the Zazzle store. Grab yourself some items. Anything you buy will also contribute. Go down to the bottom of the page. If you hate electronics, Lady Horse. The address is down there. Send us some snail mail. Mom's Jimmy. It's in the microcosm. I'm here with the effervescent Bruce McDonald and the ever-present Epic Journeyman, and he is on an epic fire quest today to uncover the deep, dark secrets of the internet and beyond. We'll be right back. All right, we're out of there. So you guys want to take a break? You got 3 minutes till we come back. Let me get some music here. Hang on.
I got to answer a phone call. They left a message.
Go ahead. Let me get this together here. So hopefully you guys are enjoying the show. The shoe. Hold on. I got to figure something out here. Because what I want to do is I really just want to promote this other song. And I'm going to do it. Because I don't care. Hold on. Let me see here. Where is it? I can't find it.
It's the cognitive dissonance that they've mastered, how they can dislocate people from the events going on around them so that they don't properly cognitize this stuff. Because this is like, reflexive stuff when you break it down. Like, hey, take 2 steps back quickly. There's a snake on the path, right? It's like they've programmed that out of us.
Yeah, you're right. And so it's cognitive dissonance and also interfering with your cognitive liberty, right?
Yes.
So we got 2 minutes. Hang on. I'm trying to find this thing from the other night, and I can't find it. Got the wrong glasses on, and I can't read. It's from so far.
Well, the trippy thing, like we talk so much about entrainment, right? And when you look at all these programs and how they all ran out, what do they all do? They try to get people to think a certain way, just like the rat, right? It's approved and rewarded, and that's the easy path, right? It's the more powerful path because that's where all the reinforcement is on that path. When you try to break from that path, there's it's feeling of unease. There's all these psychological dogmas and roadblocks to keep you from going that way, and it might even be electronic and psychotronic ways to manipulate you to make you not want to go that way. That put those speed bumps on your thought pattern that you can't get there, or it's just not convenient to go that direction, right? So keep you swept up in the tide.
Yeah,
and I think it's becoming really hard. There's very few people who break the norm anymore. Very few.
Okay, so I'm gonna play some shit when we come back. I got a couple good things here. I'm gonna play a little bit of this guy from this NSA whistleblower Benny. I'm gonna play this little chunk where he describes how they get information out of these, what you were calling circles of influence. He calls domains, but it ties exactly into what you're saying. So let's go back and head back over there. Hang on a second, you guys. What's up, YouTubes? Hey, Kenny, what's going on, Lewis? What's going on, everybody? I'll come. Just make sure you hang out after the show's over. We're gonna stay live over here. So. My name's Jimmy. It's Revolution Radio.
Help me understand your love. Help me go the way you want me to go. 'Cause I can't guess the things that you're thinking. So help me understand your love. Tell me everything you want me to know. 'Cause I can't fix it till I know that it's broken. Tell me you do. Tell me you don't. Tell me you will, then tell me you won't. Baby.
Man, that is like a vacation on a tropical island. I'm telling you right now.
Help me understand your love, 'cause you're going about this all the wrong way, and I can't figure out what you wanna say. Help me understand your love. Every day you got a different excuse for why you can't just come and tell me the truth.
It's Into the Microcosm. The only place to find us is right here, right now. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. 33 in the chat. Long Gunman's in there, Monster. Hey, Noreen, what's going on? Eagle Flower, Captain Fred, Boy Solomon, Somebody, Surrey Sunflower, Hazardous Waste, Navy, Jerbear, Mario, Sammy, Dry Flag Guy, Open Philosopher, Stardust Man, Wall E, Omega Logos, Comet, Jackbot, Not Much to It, Cat Dog Girl, Honor Lord, Festus B, Batsman, Pat Rabbit, Zip Diddy 5, SJ, and Popsicle Toes. What's up, B5? We're talking about cognitive liberty, ladies and gentlemen. Does it exist? Do we do anything at this point that's even our own idea? I mean, it wasn't my idea to sit around the house for the last 9 months.
Tell me you don't, tell me you will, then tell me you won't. Baby.
Wish I could just pipe it in every time I get pissed off. So my name's Jimmy. I'm not too pissed off, but I'm upset. I'm upset. I want you to listen to this. This is an NSA whistleblower by the name of Benny. I'm not going to bore you with the whole 8 minutes and 27 seconds of it, but I'm going to give you the piece of it that I think is pertinent to the conversation that we're having here tonight with the fascinating, the illuminating Mr. Bruce McDonald, who's here every weekday, Monday through Friday in the morning. McDonald in the morning. My name's Jimmy. I'm sitting here with the epic journeyman. And let's take a listen to a whistleblower.
Somebody told me that they can listen to what we're saying by my having this, even if it's turned off.
Yes. Here's the real grand design. Every domain, think of a domain as an activity, a specific type of activity. Phone calls, or banking is another domain. So if you think of graphing each domain, and then each graph then turning it in the third dimension, the trick now is to map through all the domains in that third dimension, pulling together all the attributes that any individual has in every domain, so that now I can pull your entire life together from all those domains and map it out and show your entire life over time.
So he's really proud of himself, and as well he should be, because that was a really giant accomplishment that he did. He was the man who came up with that. Now, so I want to point out that what he's suggesting and what he does with his hands in the middle of this presentation is he's representing this as a 3D model. So these domains are, when you pull somebody's name through these domains. Imagine a donut, and each domain is a part of that donut, and you're coming through the hole of the donut. And as your name gets dragged through the donut, when it comes to the other side, they have your whole life mapped out. Well, at least, for the most part since the year 2001. So he jumped ship because he didn't like what was going on, because this apparatus has been turned back against the American people. Now, this is an operation called Stellar Wind, or it's known as the Program. Now, every keystroke, every bit of information in the United States and in the world is funneled into this facility up in Utah. Now, the reason it's legal is because until you get a warrant, it's okay to intercept the information as long as you don't look at it. As long as you don't see it, as long as you don't hear it, as long as you don't do anything to it, it's legal. So so what he was saying here was they have the ability at this point to record everything that happens on the internet worldwide for 100 years and store it up in Utah. So Epic Journeyman, this ties into what you were saying about the sentient world simulation. because each one of us is represented by some sort of a avatar in another mirror world, or you may even say another dimension on the etheric plane, where we do and say all the same things we do and say right here, except for if we don't do and say what they want us to, they can rewind it and try to do another thing on us until they figure out what it is that works. Kind of like process of elimination discovery when you're on the internet. When I give you two choices on a web page that have a picture of something that I know will attract your attention, each of them have a different idea behind them. Which one do you click on? Every time you have two choices and you get narrowed down to one until you get put into a box. That was called Jade Helm, mastering the human domain. Come on in, Epic.
Well, that's right. I mean, and that was kind of the primitive first run of it, in a way, if you think about it. I mean, because when the military took over the Century World Simulation from Purdue, I mean, basically bought the keys to the car, right, and took it out for its first spin. That's it. That's what it was. Jade Helm. It's right there at the timeline. It fits perfectly, right? So, yeah. What was that all about? Just seeing, what people did. Those guys were hiding out in their trucks, not in public view for the most part. They were, making themselves, kind of on scene for the most part, right? But the idea was to be able to predict what the population would do with little events, like little tiny events, and how people reacted. And if it played out and it panned out. So they never really had like the Jeeps roll up your street and the tanks come up and park on your corner, which is what everybody expected. It was more like, well, we took this shelf away from Walmart. How are people going to react to that? And if you recall, there were videos about that. Like when they took whole shelves out from Walmart, and so construction crews showed up. Or it wasn't even showed up and did anything. It was parked in the parking lot. You got all these conspiracy theories related to all things that are going on at that particular Walmart in Texas, right?
And
they were operating then. That's what they were doing.
And that's how
right?
And that's how they built that first tree. So the first informational tree was built by everybody going, these FEMA camps, coffins and all this shit, guillotines and all this bullshit. Everybody's sending all this stuff back and forth. But they developed the first tree. So then when the Q situation came around, everybody that participated, whether or not it's real, it isn't, if you believe in it, you don't, if you think it is, I don't care. None of that matters to me. What matters to me is from my eye and a data scraping perspective is all I got to do is monitor all you passing all this shit back and forth, all of you making these radio shows, all I got to do is just monitor that 24 hours a day. And guess what? They're doing that already, right? So there's nothing special that has to happen. All you have to say is, you know what? Let's monitor this shit.
Well, you said something significant there earlier, and I don't want to miss that. What you said was that they could rewind it and go back, and that's true. Well, what the idea is you made decision A, but what if you made decision B? Well, because you made decision A, and they can map out all things that happened in decision A and all the things that followed it and how it played out and panned out against the prediction of how it would, right? Now they can go back and have reasonable confidence that if you made decision B, it would have mapped out the other way, and they can run that game. They can game it out. That's what it's called. Yeah, they game the whole thing out, and that's what it is. So as these decisions become more relevant from a governmental standpoint or a control standpoint, or we were talking about the Great Reset earlier, that got mentioned. You can see how that would pan out. You can see how
get into that.
Become more confident in prediction.
You said you wanted to get into a little bit of the programming around the Great Reset. Go ahead and jump in there on that.
Well, because it's been going on for a long time. I mean, the term has been out for a long time. We know that it deals with the global currency, with blockchain identification, authentication, and we know that the idea is to get people to buy in. Use that term. That it's a great word, right? Buy in, get with the program. These words, these terms, they're in our lexicon that people seem to use all the time without thinking about where they came from. But they were planted there, right, to get us to buy it and to get with the program. And that program is this program. And so the idea is that, how can we trust our elections? Well, we need some kind of way to authenticate everybody's vote. Blockchain authentication. How do we keep the drug lords from, doing this gray economy? Well, we track every financial transaction. Blockchain authentication, right? And so you need to reset the world economic system to do that. If you've been paying attention to the World Economic Forum for the last 10 years in Davos, they've been dropping not just hints, they've been overtly saying it for years. They've talked about, reading people's minds, the brain querying computers, the ability to, the famous one that we're all going to talk about, I think, is I own nothing, have nothing, and never been happier. That's the goal. It's a technocracy. It's a global technocracy. And so when Klaus Schwab comes out there with his funky alien-looking suit pajamas, people saying, look at the sorcerer or something. I looked into that, and I was really interested at the logos that I found on his apparel there. He's got this, like, if you haven't seen it, it's like this tunic kind of wears, looks like a sorcerer kind of thing. And on one side, it's got a white horse, and the other, or a bull, rather, white bull. The other side, it's got this 9-pointed star. And so I understood the bull. The bull is Europa. So Zeus took this girl Europa. Oh, that's the whole mythology of how Europe got started, right? So I understood that one. But the other one, the 9-pointed star, I hadn't really seen that before. Not like that, like a flaming star. And it turns out it's this new religion called Baha'i. I'm not sure that's pronounced right.
Yeah,
Bahai.
Baha'i.
Kind of yeah. And what it is, it's a globalist religion. It's the globalist religion. It's the new world religion. No joke, not exaggerating, not making anything up. That is what it is.
Jump in there, Bruce.
And yeah.
Yeah, Baha'i's been around for a while. I have a fetish for studying religions, and Baha'i started in like the late 70s, early 80s, I think. It hasn't gained much traction. It is, and it's an amalgamation religion, right? It is to all religions what the United Church is to Christianity, right? It's an amalgamation theology. So I would say I would go so far as to say it's liberal humanism with a deity.
That's not bad. Yeah, I think that's probably right. Yeah, when you see those bumper stickers with all the religions on the bumper sticker, that's what it is. Yeah, you say it's amalgamation of all.
Yeah. So anyways, keep going. Baha'i is, so he's a member of that religion. That's disturbing right away.
Yeah, and so that's it though, right? I mean, that's what I picked out of that. It's like, oh, cool, because I didn't really learn about these people's involvement, and it is an elitist kind of movement with them, and they're starting to show their logo, the 9-pointed star, kind of similar how the Freemason logo used to show up with people not really knowing what it meant. Excuse me. So it's kind of the same thing. Now they're boldly, that's a bad word. They're boldly going forth and showing it. And projecting it out there and getting it in the lexicon of the popular mindset so people can see it.
Yeah. And this really is, when you look at it, this is really, folks, an excellent opportunity to explain what masonry really is at the higher levels. It's quite literal. They seek to build, but don't limit it just to physical building. I mean, these MFers now are trying to construct one physical and 2 or 3 psychic, mental, emotional layers to our reality here. I mean, they're almost creating a virtual reality, but what they like is the design of it because they're addicted to feeling like God. And that's the trip for them. A lot of people, we spend too much time down in the basement with the bloodletting. I mean, that's the lower ranks. That's how they keep the monkeys in line in these Luciferian New Age religions, right? But at the top, they're very, very lucid and very inspired by the emotions of awe and wonder, which are morally neutral emotions. It's interesting to note, and so this is what they're doing. I mean, so the architects, the builders, the spiritual sons of Solomon are creating humanity 2.0 for us. Nothing more, nothing less. And if you don't fit in, you're that little scrape of clay that gets thrown away when you're forming the brick. So that's what's going on here.
Yeah, and this social engineering is present in the whole thing that's going on right now. We're just like, if you don't want to wear the mask or whatever, you're going to get socially shamed by people that are under the spell of what's going on. Listen, we don't have much time left. What I want to do is I'm going to get into the last 6 minutes of the Mad Scientist presentation. I don't know what's on there, but I'm assuming he's leading up to a point, and I'm assuming the last 6 minutes is going to be a heavy hitter. So we're rolling the dice. It's almost like it's into the microcosm.
If you're really interested,
hold on, it's into the microcosm slot machine. I'm pulling the slot handle on this last 6 minutes because I have a feeling he's gonna drop some bombs. But I could be wrong. We'll see. You guys ready? Here we go.
I've only had the wonder and opportunity to engage with you for about the past hour or so. If you're interested in going further down the rabbit hole and reading about this in greater detail, granularity, and specificity, I recommend this to you. Not because I'm going to go out and buy the new Maserati when you all buy the book, but because I'm very proud of it. And I'm proud of it not because I wrote it, because I only really contributed a couple of chapters. I'm proud of it because bringing this together was a multi-year effort that grew out of a set of, at first, somewhat sensitive but unclassified and some classified conferences that we had that were then subsequently declassified, and then also brought together international leaders in the field of military science, bioengineering, neuroscience, philosophy, ethics, and law to provide their perspective, their lens, their vision and voice as to what's going on in this domain at this point, with some speculation, vision, and proposition as to what may need to go on in the future, so he's able to opportunize the capabilities of the brain sciences and meet and be prepared for the challenges that it offers in this space. At this point, I'd like to thank you all for your attention. I hope I haven't bored you. If you wish to get in touch with me, feel free. Just put in your subject line USMA so I don't think you're...
There you go. You want to get in touch with him? James.Giordano@georgetown.edu. If you want to get a hold of the old mad professor over there and get a chunk of what he's got going on. This stuff is super intense, ladies and gentlemen. It's no joke. I mean, it's all fun and games or whatever, and I know, it's a bit scientific, some of it, but I found that particular piece about the psychological effects of just a few people coming down with symptoms that just about everybody has, that they could psychologically make themselves feel as though they've caught whatever it was and head on down to the doctors. So I found that to be extremely interesting. What do you guys, we got about 10 minutes left. Why don't you jump in?
I didn't know he was from Georgetown. I thought that's interesting. I've been there. I was there in the 80s, actually. It's pretty interesting. But the thing that I didn't go there, but in Georgetown. Georgetown.
Like,
so it's by Annapolis, Maryland. Washington? Well, by Washington, D.C., Annapolis, Maryland. So what you have there, the people who go to Georgetown and hang out at Georgetown are either naval intelligence, naval cadets, right, from Annapolis, or they're going there to get a political career. A lot of them, right? They're there in Washington, D.C., close enough Washington, D.C. for that reason. So it's interesting. Is from I said Annapolis, Georgetown, because the people, the circles he'd be involved with, primarily would be in that field, would be in naval intelligence or in politics. So I think that's interesting tie-in.
Well, I mean, there it is. I mean, the evidence is there. I mean, a couple weeks ago, we had a whistleblower who said that he's actually watching what's going on through somebody's eyes via some technology that had to do with some sort of nanoparticulates. And here's a guy who's got nothing to do with that guy, and he's telling me there's nanoparticulates that could be sprayed, aerosolized to an individual, and then that individual could be remotely controlled. So, I mean, at this point, I mean, the subsonic and ultrasonic, hypnotizing that goes on via your cell phone, to make you look at it, to make you constantly check it, to get that, there's some sort of a gratification that happens. A circuit has been created in your own mind to where you get this direct dopamine strike every time. You get some kind of a reactions on the internet or some sort of a pleasure. When you think about the amount of hits that the Pornhub gets, and you think about world population and eliminating it, just think about if I have a population reduction program, all of a sudden I just make a bunch of porn available for free to people. There's a bunch of seed that's going nowhere, man. Nowhere. And that's the whole key to the future. You won't be able to have kids unless you can prove that hey man, you're a good citizen, huh? In the New World Order, in the brave new world, you got to be a good citizen up to a certain point. And you know, do you remember Brave New World? Mom was a bad word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jump in, Epic. I mean, jump in, Bruce. You guys, come on in.
It was a cuss word. Mom was a cuss word. No, I was just checking out. I did play Captain Google here and double check what I was just saying about Georgetown. I learned a couple things that I had forgotten. I just relearned. One is that it's a Jesuit university, which I found very interesting. And the other one is that more diplomats come from Georgetown than any other university.
Yeah.
So it's basically the Foreign Service training ground. And like I said, it ties into naval intelligence as well, but it's right there by Annapolis. So, yeah, there you go. I mean, this guy's telling you something because he's in the know, and the fact he's telling you it means he was cleared to tell you about it, because he couldn't have told you about it in the 80s. So why is it okay to talk about it now? It's because it's already out, right? Yeah. So, yeah, we have to take it, but that not just grain of salt, but as a seed that we could plant and maybe grow into something that gives us a little more cover. We'll look at it in the long haul.
Bruce, we got about 3 minutes left, and you are up there living the life that people need to be living, with your feet on the dirt, and your hands in the dirt, and your eyes to the sky, and having a good life, a nice quiet life. Why don't you come on in and just give us final thoughts, and we'll be heading out of here. Stay tuned for the Fenton Perspective right here on Studio A. Go ahead, Bruce.
Life's always been here, folks. Human beings have always been here. We existed before governments and will exist after governments. Always be a human being, man, and never forget that you can just choose to live completely as you want to live at any time you want. You may have to make a plan. There may be a bit of sacrifice involved. Little nose to the grindstone, saving some money for 4 or 5 years, but you can do anything you put your mind to. And then once you're free, you're free.
That's right. Epic Journeyman, jump on in here. We got 2 minutes.
Yeah, just to echo what Bruce said. I mean, yeah, I'm over here fighting the fire ants and chasing the rats out of the house. Now the tree fell, and then cut the tree down, get it out of my yard. But you know what? I mean, that's true. I mean, if you're willing to make the sacrifice, it's not that big a sacrifice in the long run to be free, right? No. So, you're not going to do it living in the World Economic Forum's little, studio unit that you share with everyone else because you belong to everyone, which is where they're really aiming for. That's a real thing. That's not some conjecture.
Hey, they figure out
it's right out there.
They figure out what the nut is to keep the world moving, to keep all the economies going. They figure out what that number is. Apparently, they've landed right around the $3,000. If every person on Earth gets $3,000, everybody continues to get rich, and we get $3,000, and all the systems keep moving. I don't know what's going to happen. I'll tell you this: we got a whole bunch of stuff coming ahead. And it's best to try to keep our heads and try to get grounded, man. Put your feet in the ground and resonate with the Schumann resonance. So mine's Jimmy, and this is Into the Microcosm. Appreciate it. Don't forget, we are listener supported, and if you don't support us, we're not here. You don't want to tune it in one day and just have there be dead air. Here comes Zach Wild. We're going to take off. Thank you so much. Step on over freedomslips.com. Become a patron. The archives are free over there right now because everybody's helping to support. So continue to support. They'll be free, and we'll still be here. My name's Jimmy. We'll talk to you on Friday night.
Then you just don't care. On and on we drift back to where we were before. You can welcome me in. I will not walk through that door. Oh, no. I may be blind, but I'll find my way. Oh, yeah, like a lost prayer on a stormy day. Oh, stormy day.
Be good to each other. That's all we have, man.
You can carry your grudge. I've severed these times and I've cut you
All right. There we go. Epic Journeyman, are you there? Are you still there?
I'm here.
All right. You sound like you're in a tin can. Let me get some.
I am in a tin can.
Oh.
Kind of. I got the old school headphones from the iPad. Got the cracked iPad in my,
nice.
my jungle house here, but no frogs today, so we're good to go.
Nice. Well, it's time to feed the dogs. Hey, what's up?
Yeah, I got to go out and chop some more brush, man.
Yeah. What's up, Danny Title? What's up, Lolly? Hey, Drone. What's going on, Zoe? And you're over there. And there's Jer Bear. What's up, Lewis? Hey, Robin. Hey, Lance. What's up, Mateo? Blue Doe 1 was over there. Yup. And then, let's see who else was over there. Lolly, of course, was there. I don't know if I said hi, Lolly, but I'm saying it again. Mahalia is over there. And let me see who else. That's it, man. Oh, Kenny. It's evil, man. Kenny was over there, too. Hey, so I'm glad you popped in for a minute. You kicked ass. And thank you. That was great. And it was good stuff for the book, too. So, yeah. Hey, Pepe. What's going on? Good to see you. Yeah, so we got to feed the dogs. I do got to feed them dogs. So, go ahead. Come on in.
I got to go play Jeremiah Johnson out there and, cut the timber.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
probably going to come back later on tonight. So if you guys want to check back a little bit later, I'll probably going to be around 7 o'clock or so. 7:30. So if you want to check back with me, Epic, I'll be on. If I'm just going to dick around, play around with some material for Friday. And just,
I got 2.5 hours daylight.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So go get your daylight, and when you're done and you're all cleaned up, just check in and see if I'm here, because I might be going live by then. All right, we're gonna go, you guys.
All right, man. Check back with you.
All right, bro.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, sounds good. Hey, thanks, Dirt Engineer. Really appreciate it, man. Really appreciate you guys, man, for sure. All right, let's go. We're out.
Bones. I am skin. Soul.